Hello? Hello? Wave master, am I audible? Wave master, am I audible now? Are you there? Aditya?
Sir, your voice is breaking.
My voice is breaking. I can hear you now.
No, actually, it's breaking, sir.
Okay, just a minute. Now, Artha,
Yes, sir, it's fine.
fine now?
So I'm audible now?
Yeah, Shubham. Hi, Shubham. Shubham, can you hear me? Shubham, Artha, hello? Hello?
Sir, his network got disconnected.
Is network, no?
Yes, yes.
Like, mine is okay, stable.
Sir, your voice is breaking continuously. It's not clear.
Just a minute. Let me switch on to mobile network, I think. That's better. Artha, am I audible now?
Sir, you're audible, but your voice is not clear, sir.
I think let me come on this only. Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Yes, sir, yes, you're audible.
Hello?
Yes, you're audible, sir.
Hello?
You're audible, sir.
Okay, okay. So let's wait for one more minute, I think. We are having around 23, 24. So your voice breaking. Because,
Shubham is here, sir.
okay, okay. Hey, Shubham. Shubham, can you hear me? Shubham, can you hear me? Shubham, there is an issue with you, I think. No, no, no. Unmute yourself. Not audible, not audible. Shubham, find a better place. I think your network is unstable there. Shubham?
Now?
No, your network is poor.
Uh,
You are not audible. I'm okay. Hassan, what is the issue with Shubham?
Sir, his network is poor.
So let him be like in audible format rather than visible. So ask him to like no switch off video format. Shubham, no, your network problem is there. I think. Uh, Shubham, you can switch off your video. I think you can switch off your video. Yeah. No, no, no. Your voice is not audible. Aditya, just help him. Okay, okay. Let him join us again. Meanwhile, Hasta all set?
Yes, sir, we can
Aditya?
hear you.
Okay, okay. Please respond, yeah.
Sir, your network is poor. It's coming late.
So,
so am I audible now? Am I audible, sir?
Y- Yes, sir, yes, you are audible.
Shall we start?
Yes, I think sir got disconnected. I think he's joining now.
Okay.
now,
Please let me know.
hello. Am I audible now?
Sir, you're
Sir, your
audible.
bandwidth is very low.
My bandwidth is very low. Just a moment. Just a moment. I think now it is okay. I think now it is okay.
Yes, yes. Shubham sir is
So
also
there's
saying.
so there's some background
Yeah,
noise.
yeah, yeah. I understand. Please manage the background. Please manage the background. Can you give me a 10 minutes?
Sure, sir.
Okay. Sorry for inconvenience. Let's start. I think it's manageable now. My webmaster, please say, go ahead. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Harsha.
Sir, you're audible.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let's begin today's show. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is your friend Colonel Verma, and I welcome you all for today's event, Coffee with Colonel. For me, the celebrities are those people who crack the civil services examination. This requires dedication, hard work, and determination. In today's show, I'll be hosting the young and dynamic officer of 2019 batch, Mr. Shubham Jaiswal. Not taking much time, let me bring him in. Mr. Shubham Jaiswal, All India rank 482, UPSC 2019. Hi Shubham, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for inviting me to the show.
How are you feeling, man?
So I'm doing well. Just 2 days back, my foundation course ended in Missouri. I've come down to my home. Here I will stay with my family for a week, and then I'll join my service-specific training for Indian Revenue Services in Faridabad.
Okay, so you have been allotted Indian Revenue Service,
Yes, sir. Indian Revenue Services, Customs, and Central Excise.
Customs and Central Excise. Okay, congratulations for being allotted this service, and I will give you the best wishes.
Thank you so much, sir.
So, in this chit chat show, I want to make it very informal, and we will be discussing on points like how to prepare for CSC, that will include prelims and mains examination. What should be the right approach for your essay and ethics papers, and how to choose the optional paper. So let's begin with the first topic. What should be the right approach, the integrated approach or in solo mode for prelims and mains examination? Shubham.
Uh, uh, there's some background noise from the other end, but I'll continue if it's feasible for the other participants.
Okay, okay.
So I I
Should I
thoroughly
repeat
believe.
my question?
No, I got a question. I thoroughly believe that there's different approaches for different candidates. For some, they might find success in going forward with the solo approach, that is, studying specifically for prelims and then solely for mains and then the interview. But when I went to the Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy for Administration, I found out that majorly the students went for a integrated approach of preparing for the mains and the prelims. But sir, to start with, like when we build a building and we build different floors of a building, but for a building to be strong and sturdy, we need to have a good foundation. So to put it in Hindi, किसी भी इमारत की एक नींव अच्छी होनी चाहिए. So likewise, so to start with, one a candidate, an aspirant get has to get his basics right. In that sense, we need to be thorough with our NCRTs, which are the base or a foundation of a aspirant. So to start with, NCRTs of classes 9, 10, 11, 12 are a necessity, are a must to get our concepts correct and to have that conceptual clarity. And once we are thorough with the concepts, we can move on to the advanced books. And so I had followed an integrated approach. I kept in mind the bullet points of the syllabus prescribed by UPSC for the mains, and also went through the last year's question papers of both prelims and mains. And keeping that in mind, I always focused on the topics and went through with my preparation. So, so CSE for me had been an integrated approach. Uh, so I went for a solo approach for prelims just 2 months before it, where I solely focused on prelims. But before that, my entire daily routine was focusing both on the prelims and the mains as well as the current affairs. So that gave me a holistic approach and a holistic understanding of the topics and helped me to get a grasp of things both for the prelims as well as for the mains.
Okay, so it should be dealt in the integrated fashion. Uh, we have Sampurna with us, problem one and Nirantar programs. Those are customized as per demand, and we have given the integrated manner in which the both the stages will be dealt. तो शुभम मुझे ये बताओ, लाइक करंट अफेयर्स के लिए लोग बोलते हैं कि 1 साल का होना चाहिए, 2 साल का होना चाहिए. आपने कितना मतलब कितना करंट अफेयर्स तैयार किया था?
So initially, in my initial attempt, so I'll give a background of how my preparation went through. So in my first attempt, I wrote mains. In my second, I went to the interview stage, but I couldn't make it to the finalist by a margin of 7 marks. But in my third, since my interview was in the last phase of April and the prelims was just a month later, so I couldn't make it to the prelims itself in my third attempt. And in my fourth, I made it to the finalist. So over the period, I've realized that in general, candidates go for a preparation of current affairs for a year from the prelim state. But I personally found that doing 2 years current affairs gives you a good backup for the questions that would be asked for the on the current affairs topics. So I personally went for a 2 year thing, though so prescribing it is a risky because following and like mugging up the entire facts what for the last 2 years it's cumbersome. So my main focus was on the last 1 year current affairs, but I also brushed through the the uh, the year before the previous year. So in general, so I went for 2 years current affairs. So
Okay.
and I found it very helpful in my in the attempt I cleared the examination because in that attempt I scored more than 140 plus in my prelims. So that came in really handy. So, but it takes a lot of efforts to cover up 2 years ka current affairs. So, but it was worthwhile. The toil was worthwhile.
Okay. Uh, how much time is required for your prelims exclusive preparation? How much time you dedicated for your prelims exclusive preparation?
The prelim is one area that, as is wisely said by everyone, anything under the sun can be asked. So वो 2 घंटे हमारे 1 साल का फैसला डिसाइड कर देते हैं. So there is no time limit ki one can crack prelims in 50 days or 100 days or 75 days. So there's no time limit for it. What I can say is that I can give my own example. Like I went for an integrated approach of prelims come mains, but in the last 60 to 70 days, I gave solely to I totally focus on prelims because these 2 hours of prelims can decide the entire course of your year. And prelims of late has been becoming trickier, where a lot of practice is required. Even one silly mistake can ruin your entire year. So personally, I believe, sir, for the entire year, you have to do an integrated prelims come mains ka preparation. But in the last 60 to 70 days, we can solely go for prelims ka preparation.
Okay. So how many mocks you took for prelims only? People do say like they have sold around 20,000 MCQ questions. So how many questions you attempted or how many mocks you have taken for prelims only?
Uh, so what I did, sir, I had joined a institute for writing prelims in a test environment, so as to cut down my any silly mistake I do, because any silly mistake can prove to be costly. So I joined a test series where 25 tests were there, and I made it a point that I solved the questions in a test room environment in the in with the time constraint. So that were 25 tests. It came down to 2,500 questions, and then I had solved other 40 test papers on my own. And also I went through the last year's question papers. So in and around, so they must be around 8 to 9,000 questions. But I would say here and say it with quite an emphasis that it is not the number of questions you solve. तो हम कितने क्वेश्चन सॉल्व करते हैं उससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. The difference only arises when we revise those questions. Make sure that once we've made a mistake in a test paper, and if a similar question comes in in the other paper, we do not repeat that mistake. So the entire objective is not to solve as many questions as one can, but to minimize the mistakes we are committing. So rather than my own strategy was, मेरी स्ट्रैटेजी ये थी सर कि मुझे ज्यादा मार्क्स नहीं लाने, जो मैं गलतियां कर रहा हूँ उसको कम करने हैं. So elimination of my mistake was the entire idea of it. And if one scores 120, 130 in the prelims, so one is very comfortable of clearing the prelims, the first hurdle. And that is one area where the majority of the screening is done. If 5 lakh people are appearing, only 13,000 to 14,000 are able to write mains. So one has to be very serious about prelims, and the energy and the mental toil or the physical toil that goes into prelims is far more than what it takes in mains. So the prelim is I always found prelims to be tougher than mains. So to your questions, specifically, I solved around 8 to 9,000 MCQs, but I made it a point that I revise and revise the mistakes, revise all the questions I had made wrong in my tests. So that was one of my major strategies.
So Shubham, now let me ask you the question on accuracy versus volume of questions. So what was the take? Like you were like you ऐसा था कि मेरे को क्वेश्चंस पूरे करने हैं और नेगेटिव मैं अपने आप देख लूंगा, या you went after the only questions which you knew the rightest answer?
So here I followed a balanced approach. So there are 3 types of candidates. One who go all out, pura 100 to 100 questions. The second is people who are risk averse, and third who are no risk takers. The people who go all out solve 100 questions. People who are risk averse like me solve around 80 to 85 questions, and people who are no risk takers solve around 70 questions. So I cannot prescribe one strategy for an individual because it depends upon the accuracy rate of a candidate. If one is able to maximize one score by solving all the 100 questions, it's good for that particular individual. So we need to assess our capabilities, our accuracy rate when we solve the question papers, and thereon devise a strategy, whether we have to be a no risk taker candidate where we solve only 70 questions, or we are a risk taker, or a risk taker like solving 100 questions, or a risk averse person taking a balanced approach of solving around 85 questions. So I personally took a balanced approach of solving 85 questions, but I would again put the disclaimer that one has to develop a strategy depending upon what's accuracy rate in the mock test papers we solve.
Okay, great. I think we have one reaction, Mahalingam. Somebody has reacted, I think. We have kept the question answer session for the last. let me cover up my point.
I would be happy to
Uh,
take your questions.
okay, okay. Who was saying? Somebody raised her hand. I don't know. Webmaster, please unmute the candidate. Yeah, Mahalingam is there. Yes, ma'am. You want to know something? Okay. Okay, there is no question. Okay. So now let me ask you, Subham, about the main. So how did you develop the effective answer writing? How many mocks you took up, and could you manage the time during your real-time examination? Please enlighten.
Yes, time management is one of the most crucial part of mains, where we have to make sure that we solve all the 20 questions to maximize our score. And so in my first attempt, I could only solve 18 questions to 19 questions of the total paper, and I found it difficult. Like the questions I solved towards the end, they lacked quality answers. So gradually and slowly, I developed the habit of completing my paper on time. So that is one aspect. Like we have to make sure that we complete our papers on time, and this only comes by practice. There's no other alternative where we can develop this time management strategy. It has to come by practice. So before the mains examination and after the prelims, I wrote 16 tests of sorry, 16 tests of I'm so sorry. I wrote 8 tests of GS and 8 of my optional subject, 2 each for GS and 4 each for the paper 1 and paper 2 of optional, and also wrote 4 essay papers. And slowly and gradually, I was able to develop and keep a keep a make sure that my paper got completed on time. So, and it only comes with practice. So
Okay. So, 3 hours for mains answer writing. Let me educate my viewers. This exam has two stages, prelims and mains. In prelims, there are two papers, GS paper 1 and CSET paper. That is known GS paper 2. In mains, there are 9 papers, 2 are language papers, and 7 are the compulsory papers, which will be included for your marks and rating. Those are one essay paper, 250 marks, 4 GS papers, 250 marks into 4, that comes around 1000. And then there will be 2 optional papers from your chosen optional. So total 1750 marks, written marks. 275 marks will be of your personality test. So, Shubham, now let me ask you about your optional subject. What was your optional subject, and how did you develop a good strategy for your optional subject? Please enlighten us.
so I had taken geography as my optional subject, and so optional is one area where we need to be very thorough with, and we have to have conceptual clarity and very deep knowledge about the subjects. Because in an optional, not only portions from the what is taught at the graduation level, but also what is taught at the masters and even at the research level is can be asked in optional. And so this time I was able to score. Uh, my score in geography optional was one among the highest in the country, among the top 10 in the country. So that came with practice, because in my initial attempts, my score was very, very, very low. So I made sure that I had notes in handy notes of all the points mentioned in the syllabus, which is prescribed by the UPSC. And so geography as an optional has to be written in a certain format. There has to be a map in every answer uh, we write. And so I also try to enrich my answers with the help of different graphs, different local case studies, different maps from the world, and likewise. So it all came with practice, and I made sure that I had handy examples, maps, case studies, short crisp notes for all the topics. So that is how I developed that is how I developed a thorough control of my optional, and I was confident enough of getting good marks in my optional. And so I'd like to add here that if any participant has any question, they can write it down on the chat box, and I'll be happy to answer those questions.
Okay. So Shubham, what tip you will give to them, like how to choose optional subject? Can you please give your take on that?
So UPSC has different optionals to choose from. I would prescribe only one factor, that one should consider in choosing an optional. That is one's interest in that particular subject. Uh, so people from an engineering background, like from computer science, they do not have they do not have the computer science as an optional for UPSC. Therein we can choose the sole criteria of interest, because optional is one area we have to do deep and thorough reading of the concepts, and only when we have interest, only when we can sit down for hours and hours and read about a topic, then only we can develop a mastery over an optional. So interest is one criteria, and there is one hollow and very wrong criteria of choosing an optional, going by the marks which is obtained by different candidates in the examination in the previous year. So I think that can be a risky criteria of choosing an optional. One can go uh, one can go with the with how one feels and how one is interested in an optional. So also there's one more criteria, that there are few optionals which have a good overlap with the GS subjects. That was one criteria that swayed me to take geography, because geography has a good overlap with the GS1 portion and the GS3 portion. So is history, so is public administration. But there's a flip side to it also. Since a lot of candidates take 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 these common subjects as an optional, so there's a lot of competition and uh, a lot of deep understanding that is required to in the questions that are asked. So so interest can be one criteria. The overlap can be the other criteria. Third can be, so the like people uh, come from different backgrounds and stay in different areas while preparation. So the quality of study material can be other. If a good quality study material is available, good guidance is available, like if you're writing test, your test copies need to be corrected and good feedback need to be given so that one can improve upon the answers. So these three criteria can come in handy while choosing an option.
Okay. Friends, Shubham hails from Gorakhpur, UP, and he's a graduate in BCom from Sriram College of Commerce, Delhi. He has chosen geography as an optional subject. So it doesn't matter what was your subject in your graduation level. Overall, whatever been told by Shubham, those criteria should be included when you make a decision for your optional subject selection. Now, let me come to the question on essay. तो लोग बोलते हैं कि ऑप्शनल आपका सिलेक्शन कराता है, ऐसे एंड एथिक्स पेपर आपको रैंक दिलाता है. Am I right, Shubham?
Yes, you are right in a, uh, in a sense, but so this time what UPSC did, they curtailed and made sure that the optional was not a deciding factor. And so herein, so the essay and the ethics paper came in very handy. So yes, sir, essay and ethics paper, there's a lot of fluctuation in the marks one get. Like in an essay, a candidate can be getting 150 and the other candidate can be getting 110, 115. So these marks make a huge difference in the selection of a candidate. I'll give you as an example. This year, every one mark has 14 candidates. So, so for example, if a candidate overall is getting 980 marks, so 980 marks is shared by 14 candidates. So every mark, sir, counts here. Therein, sir, the role of ethics and essay and the interview comes in handy. because these are the few areas where there's a lot of fluctuation in marks, and that can be the deciding factor of you making to a list or not. And coming focusing on now on the essay, so there's one general thing which every aspirant know, a few building blocks of an essay. One has to firstly, one has to be very clear about the topic one is choosing. We get two sections, section A and section B, wherein we get four options each. And what we have to give at the start of the exam, we have to spend at least 5 to 10 minutes in choosing and deciding our topics. कि कौन सा टॉपिक हमें चूज करना है and कौन सा छोड़ना है, because that is the first stepping stone of writing a good essay. Once we are very thorough with the topic, then we have to brainstorm. So the common idea followed by people is like they break down the topic into political, economic, social, ethical, technological, cultural aspects of it. So but over the period I've realized that these are very narrow compartments. One has to go beyond these normal political, social, and economic breakdown. So what had followed was also a breakdown into temporal and geographical aspects, temporal and spatial aspects. So by temporal, I'll give you an example for a topic like democracy. So we can write down how democracy evolved in India. For example, in the ancient India, we had the concept of republics. In the medieval India, we had monarchy. We had monarchy in our country, and slowly through with the struggle of independence, and eventually we developed the essence of democracy. So if you can see, sir, I'm developing my essay in a temporal sense, ancient, medieval, and the modern India. Likewise, we can go for a spatial sense of democracy as well. For example, one can write like in June 12, 1215, in June 1215, in England, the king gave up his rights, and the Magna Carta was written. So that was one building block, one very significant event in the developing of democracy in a true sense. And likewise, that idea spread to the United States, where the Bill of Rights was signed. So if you see, sir, I'm going spatially, like geographically, I'm looking at Britain, I'm looking at US, I'm looking at different countries. For example, in South America, the Monroe Doctrine had come out in 1815. The Monroe Doctrine. Because of that, democracy had evolved in the southern American countries. So rather than like dividing an essay into spatial, political, economic, and other criteria, we can also break down that in spatial and temporal sense. So this is the brainstorming aspect of an essay. But one has to do his homework properly in an essay. So there are few things like one can go about preparing for an essay. Is that there are some common topics. Not topics, are there common themes. A theme on women, a theme on environment, climate change, a theme on agriculture, education, health. So one can always jot down points related to these themes. One can keep a note of different quotes, different anecdotes, and likewise, when a question comes related to these themes, we can always have some anecdotes, short stories, case studies on these themes and handy, and thereon we can write our essays, integrating all these aspects. Also, sir, am I audible? I think there's a lag in the video. Anyway, I'll continue. So one thing which I'd adopted here was like whatever anecdote or a story or a introduction I started off with, I made sure that I took up points from my introduction and okay, I made sure that I took up points from my introduction or the story and concluded with it. For example, sir, in one of my test series, I started off with the story of Angulimal and the Buddha. So I made sure that that introduction and the conclusion ended on the same note. So this gives a sense of a full this gives a sense of a full what do you say, a web, like of a good understanding and a good closure to the essay. So this is how I went about my essay. to conclude, we can break down into different aspects and make sure that we also integrate aspects from the space by space I mean geographically, different areas, different countries, and temporally, ancient, medieval, and the modern. So when you write like this, so the essay evolves in a very good sense, and this gives a very good impression on the examiner. So that is how I went about my essay, and I ended up with very good scores in my essay this time. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, Shubham. Very good strategy. I think my students must have got it now. What should be the thrust of your essay writing? Next question I'll ask about the ethics paper. This time I think people have been rewarded handsomely. तो व्हाट वाज योर अप्रोच? लोग बोलते हैं कि एथिक्स को पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं होती है एंड हाउ डिड यू टेकल दिस पेपर इन द एग्जाम लाइक सेक्शन ए एंड सेक्शन बी स्पेशली अबाउट द केस स्टडी.
सर टू बी ऑनेस्ट सर, जो लोग बोलते हैं कि ऐसे कि एथिक्स के पेपर को पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं होती है, वो झूठ बोलते हैं. हर पेपर को सर पढ़ने की जरूरत होती है. एवरी पेपर हैज टू बी गिवन इक्वल टाइम एंड ड्यू टाइम. हाँ, so I agree, sir. Ethics, the time we give in ethics can be a little less if we go and devise the right strategy for it. For example, sir, a common strategy followed by for ethics can be, sir, there are different pointers, different words mentioned by UPSC in its syllabus. For example, words like integrity, probity, honesty. So one has to have a very good understanding of what these words mean. So the we can jot down these points and get our own definitions for the same. That is the neve, that's the foundation of preparing for ethics. We have to have a good understanding of the words mentioned by UPSC. Secondly, sir, for ethics is the toughest paper to complete in a examination mode. It is the lengthiest paper. So, and completing that paper within the time span can only come with, as I mentioned previously, with a lot of practice. So ethics requires a lot of practice of completing that in time. So and also, sir, there is one thing that people generally write about Mahatma Gandhi as an example in all the answers. So that becomes a little monotonous for the examiner, I believe. So what strategy I had followed was that I had, I had I'd compiled a lot of ground case studies and a lot of real life examples. By ground case studies, I mean, I'd made a note of different work done by different bureaucrats. To mention a few, so I had mentioned the good work done by IAS officer of Chhattisgarh cadre, Mr. Alex Paul Memon. What he'd done for the tribals. So I'd made a two line example or case study for him. Then in Kerala, we have S. Suhas, who's the district collector of Kozhikode. He had come out, he had used emotional intelligence. Uh, so by using these words, he came up with the campaign like "Tere Mere Beach Mein." So by using this emotional intelligence, he got the beaches cleaned. Then he came up with the concept of Freedom Cafe. They were in Freedom Cafe. There were free meals given to elderly. By doing so, he was showing empathy. So I tried to use these very real life examples from the bureaucracy itself and use them in my answers. So that is one area uh, that helped me in scoring. That helped me to score good marks in ethics. I think by doing so, the examiner gets to know that I'm being very analytical and I have a thorough understanding of the concepts and the words I'm using. Just by mentioning Mahatma Gandhi in all the answers becomes a little monotonous. So we have to have a very diverse set of examples and case studies to write in an essay. And also, since the ethics paper is quite large, so we can make use of the flow charts and different schematics to complete our answers well and to write our answers thoroughly. So that is one area. And solving, so for case studies, there are different. Coming to case studies, there are different style of writing a case study. So one can always choose any style of writing case study, but one has to make sure that one covers all the uh, ideas, all the dimensions of an answer. Like going only with the dimension of being bureaucratically correct on an answer can be a little uh, rigid. I must say. So one has to show one's empathy, also bureaucratic values, also that one is following the rules and the procedures prescribed. By giving multiple dimensions in an answer will make our answer wholesome and will help us to fetch good marks.
Great, great, innovative and practicality. So, Shubham, in case studies, like, what was your structure? Like, can you give us something on that part? Like, how did you address the case studies? By taking out the issues, the stakeholders, then the conflict of interest or the ethical values involved, and then the options available, and then the conclusion. So how did you go with this strategy?
So here I followed a standard approach. In the introduction, I mentioned what was the problem involved in the case study, what was the issue at hand. So my first step was writing down the issue. What is the issue one has to tackle in the case study? So my introduction would be always be the issue at hand was depending upon the case study. In one of the one of a few answers, I also mentioned the stakeholders, and I tried to cover all the points and dimensions asked in the question. But in the conclusion, I made sure that I write two things, sorry, rather three things. So first was the short term. What would be my short term step and in the impact of it? What would be my long term step and the impact of it? And third, how my steps would help to achieve constitutional morality. Like I would also quote the preamble or the directive principles. How my these steps would help to realize the values mentioned in the preamble or the directive principles. So to conclude, so I would say short term step and the impact of it, long term step and the impact of it, and how these short term and long term impact steps would help to realize the constitutional values. So this was a structure.
Great. Shubham, like I'm done with the agenda points. I'm going to question from my parents. Eight things. Which case series you took up for your preparation?
I'm sorry, sir. There's a lot of background noise. I'm not able to hear you clearly.
Shubham, am I audible now?
Yes, sir. You are.
Yeah, I think one question was asked by a candidate. Which test series you took up for your preparation?
Sir, since I had the privilege of staying in Delhi, so for I took guidance IAS test series for geography optional, and for my GS papers, I was very privileged and I was very blessed to have a good company of serious candidates. So we were a group of four candidates who all had written interview or who had all written means of giving interview. So we made a group of four and we used to write answers and we used to do peer evaluation. So for GS. So for geography optional guidance IAS and for GS means test paper, so peer evaluation. So you're not audible. So you'll have to unmute yourself.
ओके शुभम ये सारे क्वेश्चंस हो गए अभी बड़े फनी क्वेश्चंस हैं जो एस्पिरेंट्स पूछते रहते हैं
जी सर.
हाँ कुछ क्वेश्चंस है लाइक आपने बॉल पेन यूज किया या जेल पेन यूज किया
सर मैंने ना पहले अटेम्प्ट में सर बॉल पेन यूज किया, नेक्स्ट अटेम्प्ट में जेल पेन यूज किया. सब जब दोनों से काम नहीं आया तो फिर मैंने सर पार्कर पेन यूज किया, फिर काम हो गया.
Okay, there are certain myths or truth that I would like to know from you.
So,
Toppers do not use WhatsApp or social media apps during their
so that
preparation.
that is not a myth, sir. That is a truth. So most of the people I interacted with in the academy in Missouri, they were like me myself. We were totally cut off from social media. No Instagram, no Facebook, or no Twitter. So, but yes, sir, WhatsApp is an essential thing. There was WhatsApp, but we had a very good control of on ourselves of not using WhatsApp. So many candidates, what they used to do was that they used to use the black and white phones, and at the end of the day, they used to check their normal phones to check their messages on WhatsApp. So that is, I think, a reality. It's not a myth. Like we have to not waste our time on social media, because like social media or YouTube or these things, we have to make sure that we refrain from it, because it a lot of time is wasted in all these things. So at the end of the day, when one is exhausted and there's no energy left, we can check our messages, we can watch our video or two, or just for refreshment. But likewise, every day we have to put in at least 10 to 12 hours of dedicated study every day, sir. Then only, sir, we can make it to the finalist. And I have realized it the hard way.
Okay. The next statement is UPSC favors English medium students only. Myth or truth?
So I believe it is a myth, because UPSC is a very objective institution. It uh, it it favors merit, and if you give them quality answers, they will give you the right, whether it is in Hindi or English or in any other regional language. If you provide them with quality answers and answers specific to the question asked, they'll give you the marks as prescribed and as deserved. So I've met a few candidates. For example, candidate for Richa Ratnam. She hails from Siwan, Bihar. She was there in the institute, Masuri. She was a topper from Hindi medium. And on interaction, so I really felt that UPSC is very objective, and she also acknowledged that UPSC is very objective, and it uh, it awards marks on the not on the basis of language, but on the basis of quality of answers.
Yeah. The next statement is All India Rank 1 gets a direct call from the UPSC chairman before the result is declared. Myth or truth?
So I think Pradeep Singh would be the best person to answer this. No, so I really have no
Did you meet
idea.
Pradeep there?
Yes, sir, we were good friends. We played lawn tennis, table tennis
Please ask
together.
this question to him and get back to me.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Few
And I must
candidates
say,
would like to know that.
so I must say, Pradeep Singh is a very humble, soft-spoken, and an introvert candidate. And he's very down to earth and humble. And so he's very good at poetry, Hindi poetry. And in fact, he won a lot of awards in the academy in the poetry competitions.
Great, great. Next statement is like in essay and ethics paper, your score depends on the mood of the examiner.
Uh, so I don't really think so, sir, because uh, one gets to so one gets an idea what one has written in the exam and the quality of it. So yes, sir, because ethics is something very which is very subjective. One doesn't know what is that particular thing that will fetch you mark. And when there is subjectivity in a particular thing, so because of that there are the various doubts. So subjectivity is that thing that gives rise to all these some myths that depends upon the mood of the examiner. But I believe and I maintain, so UPSC is very objective. They must be, and nobody knows that there must be some particular bullets uh, criteria on which the marks is awarded. uh, and so one by the by reading for example, so I read Vikram Grewal's essays. He was one of the toppers of 2018 batch, and he scored the highest marks in essay. And while preparation, I was going through his essay, and just by reading the essay, I could get and I could realize the quality of it, and I could acknowledge and I could see why he got 151 marks in the essay, and he was topper of it. So reading by reading his essay and by looking at his marks, I could totally correlate between the quality and the marks obtained. So I feel it depends upon the quality and not the mood of the examiner.
Okay. The related statement is that even the toppers do not know they will find their name in the holy PDF.
So that is totally true, sir. So because we do not know, so while giving our interviews, we do not know how much marks we have scored in the mains, and uh, and after coming from the interview room, we do not know how the interview went, because all the chairman of the interview board and the members of the interview all have a poker face. They do not give away how the quality of the interview was. Sometimes there are instances that the interview ended on a very bad note, or the member disagreed or argued with the candidate, but they ended up giving him very good marks. So one doesn't really know. All we can do is just pray and remember Almighty on the on the D day, and just hope that one makes it to the final list. That is totally true, sir. Nobody knows and can be confident of making it to the final list.
Okay. Young people gets upper hand in the interviews which wish to veterans. True?
No, sir.
Unfold.
I would disagree with that. So, in like I gave my first interview when I was 23, and in my second interview when I was 25. So when I was 23, I ended up just marks such as 151 in the interview, and when I turned 25, I ended up getting 175 marks. So
Okay.
there's no correlation between the age and the marks you get in the interview. It depends upon your personality, which they are able to judge properly, the quality of answers you deliver on the day of interview, and your confidence. So age has no correlation, because in fact, my roommate in Masuri was 35 years old.
35
Uh,
years old.
yes, sir, and he got a score of 187. And there were
Uh,
people who were 20. There was a particular candidate who was 24 years old. He got a score
Is
of
this
150.
same candidate from Haryana, I think? Naveen, something, Nitin,
I don't really know, sir.
ex-police officer.
I don't really know, sir. But I can only tell you about my friend. He was 35. He is 35 years old, and he got 187 marks.
Okay. Okay.
So there's no correlation between the age. They are looking for officers who can contribute and who can do their job. If they find such a personality in an officer who is 40 years old or 35 years old, they'll go forward with giving them good marks, rather than a candidate who is young but doesn't have officer like qualities. So he'll always end up getting lower marks. So it depends upon the personality, sir, not the age.
Yeah. OLQs. Yes. Yes. So it's all about your perfection in your preparation, dedication, and determination. वो
So
कहते हैं ना, खुद ही को कर बुलंद इतना कि खुदा तुझसे पूछे बोल बंदे तेरी रजा क्या है.
जी sir.
And that comes with the hard work and determination. Shubham is the example of such dedication and hard work. That comes to the end from my end. Shubham, any crisp message to the youngsters who are listening to you and like they are facing 2021 as a litmus test for them? So, what will be your message to them?
Sir, I'll just quote one line. There is no substitute for hard work. So मेहनत के अलावा हमारे पास कुछ नहीं है करने को. बस आप ये एग्जाम बस मेहनत से क्रैक कर सकते हैं. People who claim कि they cleared the exam in a fluke, they might be the outliers or the odd one out, but 99.9% of the candidates who clear the exam, they clear it on sheer hard work. So like to put it into a put this into a perspective, I always give this example of a car. सर गाड़ी उतना ही आगे बढ़ती है जितना हम उसमें पेट्रोल डालते हैं।
Yes.
तो सर और आप गाड़ी में जितना पेट्रोल हमारा मेहनत है, हम अब जितनी मेहनत करेंगे उतनी गाड़ी हमारी आगे बढ़ेगी। और सर मैं ये पूरे विश्वास के साथ कह सकता हूँ कि जितनी हम मेहनत करेंगे गाड़ी उतनी आगे बढ़ेगी और किसी ना किसी दिन आप मंजिल पे जरूर पहुंचेंगे।
Yes. और जब गाड़ी आगे चलेगी तो बहुत सारे हर्डल्स आएंगे,
हाँ
अप्स
जी
एंड
सर,
डाउन्स आएंगे,
जरूर सर। जैसे
बहुत
गाड़ी
सारे
आगे
रोड
बढ़ती,
ब्लॉक्स आएंगे, वो भी जरूरी है।
जी सर, जब गाड़ी आगे
Yes.
बढ़ेगी तो आपका इंजन गर्म हो जाता है। तो उस समय जैसे वी लाइक एन एस्पिरेंट आफ्टर आफ्टर मंथ्स ऑफ हार्ड वर्क वी फील डिजेक्टेड और फ्रस्ट्रेटेड। तो जैसे गाड़ी गर्म हो जाती है हमें अपने आप को भी ठंडा करना होता है। वी कैन वॉच अ मूवी, वी कैन टेक अ ब्रेक, वी कैन लाइक गो टू आवर होम्स फॉर अ वीक एंड कूल डाउन। जब गाड़ी ठंडी हो गई फिर से हम पेट्रोल डालेंगे, फिर से आगे बढ़ेंगे और बढ़ते रहेंगे एंड श्योरली सर वी विल रीच द डेस्टिनेशन फॉर श्योर।
Perfect. So now I open up the platform for the question answers. Anybody would like to know from Shubham can ask the question. Webmaster, please unmute the candidates. Anybody would like to know from Shubham anything? Anybody, any query which has not been addressed so far? Though we had a good conversation, try to cover the things. Lydia, yeah, Lydia is there. Please unmute her.
I actually want to ask, there are so many things to learn. How do you actually keep it in memory?
Good question.
Ma'am, it's a very good question. And everybody's a human out here. Nobody can remember. So I'll give this example if that my mentor told me, and when I asked him the same question, yeah, how do we remember all these facts which are asked in the prelims? So many of schemes, so many dates, so many rulers. So he gave me a simple example. Like if you take a brick and take a steel scale, uh, so our brain is a brick, and our scale is the time of revisions we do. And like when you put a scale and you rub it across the brick, you get a mark. The number of times you keep rubbing the scale on the brick, the mark develops and it goes deeper. So the number of times you revise the content at hand, there will be a mark in your brain, and the fact will be there with you all throughout. So it boils down to the number of times you are able to revise. uh, there's also one thing like, so there are a lot of things to mug up. You have to prioritize and 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 make sure that whatever you are mugging up or learning is relevant and is important. For example, if you are learning about Akbar or Jahangir, that is not relevant to what is asked in the examination, because medieval India is not a part of the uh, our syllabus. So we have to first make sure that whatever we are learning is relevant to the examination. And then comes down the number of revision. Only multiple revisions can help one to help one to memorize facts and figures. And always remember, for specifically for prelim is not something you have to write it down or you have to like uh, be very specific about. It's a game of recognition. So all in prelims, the answers will be available in front of you. So it's a game of recognition. The number of times you've remembered, you've revised the study material, the more pictorial the facts and figures will be for you, and you'll be able to better recognize the correct answer in the prelims. So giving the analogy of the steel scale and the brick, and how you develop a mark on it with continuous rubbing. So that continuous revision is the key, and that is one strategy which every candidate generally follows.
Anybody
Thank you,
else?
sir.
Anybody else? Okay, there is no question. I think we should sum it up. So thank you guys for joining me. It was quite interactive, and thanks, Shubham. I think you covered all the dimensions of effective strategy, and I think जो भी candidates ने सुना है, like choosing an optional subject, effective answer writing, dealing with the essay and ethics paper, I think those people have been immensely benefited. So thank you again, and I will again look forward to having you for another session. Keep it up. I can wish you all the best for your this journey of coveted civil services examination. God bless you, and
Thank you,
thanks,
sir.
guys. Thanks,
The
guys,
pleasure
for
is all
joining
mine.
me. Thank you. Looking forward to seeing you again. Jai Hind.